In this demo, we're going to take a look at business continuity disaster recovery as a service. We have deployed an application on IKS Kubernetes cluster, and we are going to take a backup of that application and then create a disaster and then restore it. So let's take a look at the workloads of this application. These are the pods. It is a WordPress application with its data sitting in persistent volumes, and this is the load balancer IP through which the front end is exposed. So let's visit the application. We are going to populate the persistent volumes by creating a post. So let's do that. Let's add some sample post, publish it so the data is saved. Then let's view the post. So this is the post. Let's add some more data by posting a comment. After we are done with this, we'll move on to VPC Plus app, and there we would create a backup. So you need to add your cloud account information, and after you're done with that, you need to switch to the disaster recovery tab and perform a discovery on your IBM cloud account. So our cluster resides in Sydney region. We're going to perform discovery on Sydney region. So let's select Sydney and hit discover. So it is a live call to IBM cloud and all the VPCs, IKS clusters, all of the networking resources, and any data sitting on that cluster is going to be discovered and will be provided with the VPC list. So from here we need to select a VPC in which our cluster resides, and we'll be able to see the cluster on right hand side. Click on the cluster to view its details. These are the workloads on that cluster, and our app is in demo app namespace. So let's select that and create a backup. Let's give it a name and initiate the backup. So NS3 bucket is going to be created on user account, and the data is going to be backed up there. You can also view the worker pools here of that cluster. So let's wait for the backup. Okay, so our backup is been created successfully. Let's move on to cluster backup section. Here you'll be able to see all of your cluster backups. Click on it to expand it. This is the backup, and you also see the worker pools here, and these are the namespace. So you can select a namespace and create a backup right from here. Now let's move on to our terminal. Let's look at the pods again to see if it's in running state. Now let's delete the namespace to create a disaster scenario. It would delete the workloads and the PVC's data in demo app namespace. So we no longer be able to access the application. Now let's move back to the cluster backups and hit restore. VPC Plus provides you three different options. The new VPC option is the one where we will restore the VPC snapshot, and then we will provision the IKS cluster and restore the data onto that IKS cluster. A user just needs to provide cluster name, select region, zone, and resource group, and hit restore. In existing VPC, a user needs to provide the cluster name and select a VPC and subnet. In this scenario, VPC is already created, so the snapshot of the cluster is going to be restored in this new VPC. The third use case that we have is for existing Kubernetes cluster. So if you want to restore it onto an existing cluster, we will select this option, and this is used for application mobility. So let's restore it onto the same cluster. So on the right hand side, you can see the provisioning report. Right now the cluster is being prepped for restoration, and then the data and workloads would be restored onto this cluster, and then we will take a look at the workloads from the terminal and then visit the applications front end as well. So provisioning is successful. Let's go back to the terminal. Let's uh, describe the pods to see if they are in running condition. Let's take a look at the uh, persistent volume claims to see if the data has been restored. So we can see the PVCs. Let's also take a look at the um, services to grab the external IP, load balancer IP. So this is the application that we restored. As you can see from the timestamp of the comment also, this is the data that was backed up by VPC Plus disaster recovery as a service. So we have successfully restored it. Now let's explore some more option. Um, Apart from on-demand backups, we can also create scheduled policies. So let's click on scheduled backup to create scheduled policy. Let's give it a name. We're going to keep it weekly. Then we need to select the namespace, that is demo app. The frequency, we want it weekly backup, and the time to live for a backup, after which it's going to be deleted. And then hit scheduled backup. So now a scheduled policy would run and take a backup each week this time. You can view that from the backup policies that it's successfully created. And you can also view the frequency timing. You can edit this scheduled policy as well. You can delete it and restore it as well.